Hey everyone, Tom Luria here. Welcome to the shop. Um, about a week or so ago, I think we all received an email from Dave Morton, our fearless editor of the newsletter, The Broadside, asking for pictures of our shops as well as maybe some photos of recent projects that we've been working on as a way to keep digitally connected even if we can't be in the same room for a while. And I thought that was a great idea, so I thought I'd give you guys a tour of my model shop. So here we go. On that wall you can see I've basically got the bookshelves and all my reference materials. Well, I should say some of the reference materials. And then here I have all the binders that I usually assemble for any project that I'm doing. This is basically the painting area of the shop. And it's also where I keep my iPad, because I found that this is a great way to put up reference material. I was working on a repair of the Queen Mary. This was a large Asians model, and I think somewhere I'll have some photographs of the whole model. That's obviously not the model, that's the real ship, and you know, when you need to refer to things, that's part of the model. This is a great way to be able to do it. So, there's the iPad, and this is the painting bench. Now, I've got to say that all of my benches, I stand in this shop. I don't sit. I used to sit, and then I went and visited Bob Craig's shop, and I noticed that there were no chairs in his shop, and I thought, you know, that's probably a smart thing to do. So right after my visit with him several years ago, I came home and started to redesign my whole shop for standing. And the benches are slightly different heights to accommodate whatever it is I do with them. The painting bench, I like to be closer to I like the object that I'm painting to be closer to my face, my head, my eyes. So this bench is a little bit higher. And there you can see some of the stuff I use and the brushes. I have a very simple airbrush. It's just a Patriot double action brush. And I use it quite a bit. I'm not in love with it, but it does give a great finish. And over here behind these doors is my highly sophisticated exhaust system. So when I'm using the airbrush, that goes on and sucks out a good portion of the fumes and exhausts it out into the garage where nobody happens to live at the moment. And paints. Painting and mixing vessels. Below the paints there are sharpening stones for keeping all my chisels and knives sharp. We have a shop-built sander, thickness sander, and a steam iron that I use for ironing sails and things like that when I have to make pond boat sails. And over here, some rigging line, mostly silk, some linen, some cotton, but mostly silk. And this bench space is shared with one of the two drill presses in my shop. And this one, I happened to be visiting the shop up at the Constitution Museum, and I was talking with Frank Clemens, and I'd always see this box in the shop, and all of you guys know that shop, you don't have enough room to change your mind without going outside, let alone, you know, move around or store stuff. And he had this box in the shop, and it was just filled with, you know, oddball things, and I only saw the top portion of this thing and always assumed it was a motorized mortise cutter, you know, a mortise and tenon cutter. And I said, Frank, what's the story with this? And he said, oh, I wish you'd take that thing out of here and take it home. I'm sick of tripping over it. I'm tired of it. I want it gone. And I said, okay. So I took it home. And it wasn't until I got it home and took it out of the box, it was not a mortising machine, as I thought, but a drill press. And it's a pneumatic drill press. And over here on the side, you can see that it's got a little gauge and a little air vent. And it does this. This is really cool if I get it to work. Sometimes it's a little finicky. So, if you're doing something that's highly repetitive, this is a great little thing to have. Moving on. The next section of the drill 'em, fill 'em, and bill 'em section of the shop is a couple of cordless Dremels, and then this little drill press here. Now, both of the drill presses are fitted with XY tables. Now, this was not an expensive piece of equipment. As a matter of fact, I think I got it from Contenti jewelry suppliers. And I went to their website when I was looking for a drill press, and there were two drill presses listed. One for $70 and one for $860. So, which of those two do you think I wound up with? It's a good little drill press. It's got a little bit of run out, but it's still pretty accurate and very handy thing to have. Fitted with an XY table, it can be quite accurate. And now, moving on to what is basically the north wall of the shop. Large hand tools, knives, chisels, hemostats. Hemostats are really important, at least to me, especially when I'm cleaning models. I like to put a wad of cotton or a wad of paper towel or whatever I'm using in the hemostats to help me clean the models. Very handy for getting into hard to reach places. Full-size chisels of different shapes and purposes, X-Acto knives, scalpels. Here you see this scalpel here. Many of you know that about 10 years ago or so I tried to customize my hand by running it through a table saw, and it didn't come out too well. And as a result, my hand has got some physical limitations to it. And while I was in rehabilitation therapy, my therapist said, bring in some of your tools and we'll alter them so that you can use them now, that to suit the way your hand is now. And she took one of my scalpels and sculpted this handle that actually fits my thumb and forefinger and ring finger. And now I can use that scalpel quite nicely. So thank you to Lynn, my therapist. I've never forgotten what she's done for me. As a matter of fact, one of the other alterations I had to make because of my accident was that I could no longer use a pair of tweezers and change positions in my hand as I wanted to, because I don't have a working thumb. So one of the things I did was take a pair of needle nose pliers and grind them down to the point where the point was very thin and very maneuverable. And since I couldn't squeeze tweezers between my fingers, I could do this though. So these become my tweezers. These are the main tweezers I use when I'm building stuff, because it's a lot easier for me to do that than it is to try and hold tweezers. Anyhow, scissors, files of all shapes and sizes, and I have a small pan vise here, a small metalworking vise there, coffee cup, absolutely essential, and a rolling mill, great little piece of equipment for flattening out round things. And here on the east wall is my little lathe, and this is a great little piece of machinery. It's a Chinese lathe, not the most accurate thing in the world. The headstock, after fiddling around with it, I've got it so that it's only about 2/1000 run out, which is, for me, totally acceptable. And I've also altered it a bit. Let's see if I can get the lighting a little better. It's got a couple of digital readouts, so that, I don't know if you can see. There you go. And that really helps a lot. And I've got one on the slide as well. And then, of course, if you have a lathe and a quick change tool post, you need all of these little puppies to put your tooling in, and then of course the chucks and live centers and all of that stuff, and more stuff in here. Moving on, also on the east wall, let's see if I can get far enough away so you can see it. That's my my scissor lift table. Back probably about 20 years ago, I used to work in an industrial woodworking place. And big factory, big tools, big machines, and they had hydraulic scissor lift tables. And they were great. They were electric, switch, foot switch operated. This one, I got it for, I don't know, $150 at Harbor Freight. And it's foot operated. And then it's got a little release handle under here. So I can get this up about this high, all the way down to about 8 or 10 inches off the floor. That becomes important when you have big projects in the shop, and every once in a while I do get a big project in the shop. And moving on, here's my Burns table saw. Great little piece of machinery. It's got a 4-inch blade capacity. It's got a large motor. Those of you that have Preac table saws, I know one of the big complaints with those is lack of power. There's no shortage of power. And it's fairly well made. It's not cheap, but it does work very well. Worth the money, definitely. And an assortment of blades and cross slides for that. And then banks of drawers that hold materials, woods, plastics, brass, all kinds of things, and plans and templates on the right hand side, mostly supplies on the left. And that's about it. We've gone all 4 walls, and that completes the tour of this shop. So that's about it. This is my 10 pounds of shop in my 5-pound room. There are a lot more tools and machines that I'd love to have, but as you can see, I've pretty much maxed out my space, so this is the way I build. I hope to be in the same room with you guys sometime in the near future. Just a word, this will also go up on my YouTube channel, so my subscribers who are not members of the guild will also see this. So to you guys, I'll say that there have probably been some references here that you don't understand. Don't worry about it. It's just, me talking to the guys in the guild that I belong to. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Now, get back in your shop.